Chapter 5. The King's Brother.
Before I left for Blois, I told Louis that I wished to go to Paris to begin my investigations. Again, he told me that he had complete trust in me. I began to wish that there was someone I could share my burden with, but there was no one. Colbert had his own interests at heart, as he hoped to be promoted to a higher position and might give away my secret. And the Queen, although she didn't like the way Louis behaved, could not be expected to turn against him in order to put Philippe in his place. Philippe, the son she had not seen for 29 years. Besides, how would she take the news that her second son was still alive? And so it was that, alone and with a heavy heart, I set out for Blois, where I knew I would find Athos, Aramis, and Porthos, and finally meet the king's twin brother. Things in Paris were worse than ever. The food in the stores had been given out, but a lot of it was rotten and the people became sick. This made them even angrier, and my musketeers were finding it more and more difficult to control the crowds of starving people, who were now carrying sticks, stones, and pitchforks. Their numbers alone were enough to frighten even the bravest soldier. The days were long, and it was still light when I saddled a fresh horse and set out for Blois. Athos's farm was some way from the village, and by the time I arrived, it was quite dark. Aramis, Athos, and Porthos were eating a late supper as I was shown into the dining room. When they saw me, they immediately reached for their swords. "Have no fear, gentlemen. I come as a friend."
"That is good, D'Artagnan,"
said Athos.
"I would not like to have to kill you in my own house."
"I hope you would not like to kill me in anybody's house."
"That depends on whether you are with us or against us, D'Artagnan. I hope you are here to tell us what we want to hear."
"I am with you enough to come all the way from Versailles to warn you that Fouquet and at least 30 of his men are on their way, and will be here by tomorrow afternoon at the latest."
"So, you left the comfort of the palace to come all that way and tell us that? Have you eaten, my friend?"
Athos asked, getting up and embracing me. "The truth is, I haven't eaten since this morning. I could eat a horse."
"I cannot offer you a horse, I'm afraid. But we have chicken and turkey as well as cheese made with my own hands. Come, sit with us and have something to eat. But first, you must meet Philippe."
I looked down the table and saw the king sitting beside Aramis. "Your Majesty." Aramis laughed.
"Not yet, D'Artagnan, but very soon."
The man who stood up to shake my hand was the exact image of Louis. It could have been the same man if he were not so pale and thin.
"I am pleased to meet you, D'Artagnan. It is a great honor to meet someone of your fame."
"Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I cannot help feeling that I am talking to my king." Athos patted me on the back.
"But you are, D'Artagnan. If he is not the king today, he will be shortly. If you had seen him yesterday, though, you would have taken him for a beggar. His hair and beard were nearly touching his knees."
"A fine piece of hair,"
said Porthos.
"I've asked Philippe if I can keep it to make myself a wig. My own has started to get very thin lately."
"Well, D'Artagnan, is he not the living image of the king? Sit down now and eat with us."
I sat down and helped myself to bread, meat, and cheese. I asked them to tell me of their adventure on Sainte Marguerite, about which I had so far only heard from Fouquet's lips.
1 second later, and we would have been trapped inside the prison,"
Porthos said.
"Porthos saved us with his rowing."
Aramis said.
"He rowed faster than 3 men put together."
"Even if I am losing my hair."
Porthos added sadly. At that moment, a pretty country girl came in bringing us some fruit. Porthos's eyes lit up when he saw her.
"Marie, you are always ready to serve us."
Marie put the things she was carrying next to Porthos, who touched her hand. This did not seem to upset her.
Monsieur Porthos, you are very naughty.
I know. It is my only weakness.
Marie laughed and slapped him playfully on the arm. When Marie had left, I looked at Porthos and said, "I can see that you are losing nothing but your hair, Porthos."
But I am getting old. The fire is just as bright, but it needs more wood to keep it burning.
He said this with such seriousness that I had to laugh. "Now, gentlemen," I said, "tell me your plan before I fall asleep." There was silence while they looked at each other. "What? Are you not going to tell me?"
Are you with us or against us?
Athos said, looking hard at me. I thought of Paris, I thought of Louis, and I thought of Louise. Gentlemen, I am with you.
How can we be sure?
My word as a musketeer.
You have also given that word to the king.
I did not know what else to say. How could I prove to them that I was with them?
He is with us,
Philippe said with such certainty that I thought the king himself had spoken. They all looked at Philippe in surprise, and then Porthos cheered.
Hey!
So, we are together again. All for one and one for all. Very good, D'Artagnan,
said Athos.
Our plan is simple. We will get rid of the present king and put the new one in his place, and no one will know the difference.
You make it sound very simple, I said. But you have forgotten something. Excuse me, Your Majesty. I opened Philippe's shirt and saw the red birthmark on his shoulder, in exactly the same place that Louis had his.
Don't worry, D'Artagnan. They are exactly the same in every way. Philippe is thinner, perhaps, but we are trying to fatten him up. Come on, Philippe. You have only eaten one chicken tonight.
We all laughed. Then Athos explained to me exactly how they planned to replace Louis with Philippe. It was going to take place during the king's birthday party. After I had heard the whole plan, I said, "How do you plan to get a set of clothes for Philippe? You are all wanted men. Every soldier in France will soon have orders to kill you."
That is a good point,
said Aramis.
and this is where you can be very useful.
Me?
Yes, Louis still trusts you. You can help us by ordering a second set of clothes for the king.
But what would I be doing ordering a set of clothes for the king?
D'Artagnan, you have been a soldier for too long. It's time you learned to use your imagination.
I'll do my best. But where are you going to hide? Porthos's eyes lit up.
Where we usually do. In the cellar. There are at least 2 full baskets of food there all the time, and the stairs lead to the pleasures of Paris.
Porthos, that cellar is no longer safe. I suggest you hide under the church of St. John.
But it's full of dead bodies.
So, you will have plenty of company, and they won't talk.
I prefer living company.
D'Artagnan is right, Porthos. I can trust my priests, and they will look after us,
Aramis said. Porthos looked very sad. Think of it as a new experience, Porthos. Sleeping with skeletons.
It's an experience I can do without. Well, the night is young, gentlemen. I'm off to have fun.
Remember, Porthos, I said, you must be up with the lark. You don't want to meet Fouquet and his men in your nightshirt.
And why not? I'd prefer to fight 50 of Fouquet's men in my nightshirt than to spend even one night with a single skeleton.
When Porthos had gone, I told the others that I would leave alone. If word got out that I was with them, I would be finished with the king, and then I too would be on the run. I woke up the next morning to the sound of swords clashing. I quickly found mine and went to the window expecting to see my 3 friends fighting Fouquet's men. But it was only Athos giving Philippe a lesson in the art of swordplay. I could see he still had a lot to learn. Athos's sword kept touching Philippe's shoulder.
No, you must not be so heavy on your feet, Philippe. You should feel as light as a feather.
It was a beautiful day, warm and sunny. However, I was not looking forward to the ride back to Paris. I opened the window and called down to the teacher and pupil. "Bravo, Your Majesty! Don't let him frighten you, just because he was once the greatest swordsman in France."
Why do you say once, D'Artagnan?
Athos replied.
I can still take on the best of them. Why don't you come and let me show you? Or has life in the palace made you soft?
Athos's words made me angry, and I ran down the stairs half-dressed, sword in hand. When Athos saw me coming towards him, he said,
Well, at least he has not lost his courage.
Our swords clashed, and I pushed him back in the direction of the small lake where ducks were swimming. My plan was to push him in, but he came at me with such force that I sensed his sword flying past my nose. Out of the corner of my eye, I tried to see where he was pushing me. It was towards a place where the geese liked to paddle. He wanted me to fall into the mud. Our swords were moving like lightning. If we were not such good swordsmen, one of us would surely have been dead already. Porthos appeared at a window, and Aramis had come outside to watch us.
Aramis, I wager 10 gold louis that Athos will end up in the duck pond.
I heard Aramis's voice, as serious as usual.
This is no time for wagers or fights. Someone might get hurt. But if you insist, I wager 10 gold louis that D'Artagnan will end up lying with the geese.
The fight went on for at least 20 minutes. Athos must have been practicing, for he was not as easy to beat as I had expected. Slowly, I pushed him back towards the lake. I had him on the edge when I called out, "Do you give up?"
Certainly not.
"Take this, then," I said, and made him fall backwards into the water. I could hear Porthos's laughter from the open window. I leaned forward to pull Athos out of the lake. He was a sorry sight, with his long hair dripping and his moustache hanging down. I pulled him up onto dry land. "So, who do you say is the better of us now?" I said, laughing. Athos was not happy.
It was just luck, D'Artagnan. You always were the lucky one.
"Never mind," I said. "Let us have breakfast and be on our way." At that moment, a young man on horseback came galloping into the yard, breathing heavily and shouting,
An army of men, sir. About 35 of them. On their way here. They stopped to ask for directions at the miller's house. Their leader is a Monsieur Fouquet.
Athos looked around at his friends.
It's time to go, gentlemen.
Without breakfast?
Said Porthos, horrified.
I say we have a good breakfast and then fight them all.
Even you cannot fight 10 men alone, Porthos. No. Get Marie to fill some bread with meat and cheese for all of us. We'll have to eat on the way. And hurry! The miller is a friend of mine. If he guesses Fouquet's business, he will delay him as long as possible. All the same, Fouquet could be here at any moment with his army.